So if I can start, because as I mentioned before the screening, A.J. Edwards has been collaborating with Terrence Malick for quite a while. However, he said that when it comes to like stylistic of the film, he was mostly influenced by the executive producer, Gus Van Sant, and he was quoting some of the older films like My Private Idaho, things like that. So I wonder, was he expecting you to watch those films and maybe think about the way youth was portrayed there, for example?
Yeah, he wanted me to read like 1,000 books. I didn't read quite 1,000. But one of those books was Crime and Punishment, Dostoevsky. And what else? It was, instead of watching, because Gus Van Sant wasn't involved in the beginning of, before we made the film. So he only came on as an EP, maybe just as we were shooting or as we finished. So AJ, we didn't talk about his work a ton. It was more the stuff that we talked about was more like just the truth of these environments and people who are like our main character in the movie, and true events that happen that are similar to this, and then trying to just capture an authenticity in the story, without misrepresenting anything or anyone.
For me, when I think about physicality overall, I immediately think about, Robert De Niro as Jack LaMotta, putting on so much weight and just completely kind of transforming physically, and you had to do it, in a much more subtle way. So how did it create it this way?
I think that it's just another aspect of your responsibility as an actor when you're playing a role, because if you're playing someone athletic, non-athletic, lanky, or just clumsy or whatever, all that stuff makes a difference. And I don't know if a lot of actors always think about their physicality, but I like to, and I think that maybe I always have, I'm not sure. But I guess it's something that's always important to me. And I don't look physically different. Maybe I just walk differently, or there are different mannerisms. But I think it's important. I think that I've always loved physical actors. Like I love actors who, like Christian Bale, or I don't know. There are a ton of people doing, like Matthew McConaughey or Jake Gyllenhaal, who are changing their body and adapting so quickly for certain roles, and I think it's incredible. I've never taken it to that level. My interest is more just in a physical behavior, I guess, but I think it does allow you to create more of a unique character. Yeah, that's a very good question. I wasn't sure. I'm not sure. I never saw a script for The Better Angels, but when I first read this script, it was not a full-length script, or compared to a lot of scripts I read, it wasn't as long. There wasn't as much dialogue. There was a lot of, although there were scenes that were heavy dialogue scenes written, but then there were scenes like, they're in the bedroom and she's tying a tie, and maybe there's dialogue that comes up later when you're shooting the film. But that is the same for Rick Alverson. There's another film that I was in that's at the festival called The Mountain, and he also works a lot with not a lot of dialogue and not a lot of there's not a lot of on the page, and it's I think it's nice to have something on the page, but it's also very freeing to know that you have full flexibility. So it depends. I think it depends on the filmmaker. It depends on what the context of the film is. If you're playing someone who's very intelligent and they have a very specific way of speaking, it's nice to have dialogue because it's much harder to imitate that character, just off the top of your head. So when you're improvising something that's more complex, obviously it's much more difficult. But Yeah, so most of the time I like it though, because I never read a script when I worked with Terry Malick, and so I would just come to set and he would tell me what the scene was. To answer your second question about the extended version of Tree of Life, AJ, the writer-director of this film, actually cut that, the extended version. So he would probably be a better person to ask, because I didn't see it.
Okay.
Just too long.
Great.
Given that Tree of Life was actually your first film, and you were just a child, and I read somewhere that you kind of thought that this is normal to work without the script. So do you think it made it easier for you that the beginning was maybe a little bit different, and then you just kind of made normal films also later on? Did it make it easier to make films like that because you had that experience so early on?
I think it allowed me to be comfortable with both types of filmmaking, and I guess I thought it was easier because you didn't have to prepare anything. Just like, okay, I guess I'm going to go to work and we'll see what happens.
Yesterday we were talking a little bit about foster care and how does it look for those people, and I think you mentioned that it's important to talk about things that people maybe don't realize, the reality for those kids after they leave the system. So what was the most shocking thing that you found out? Because I reckon that you were encouraged to kind of find out more about it as you were working on the film.
It's continuously shocking to me how unaware we can be about certain issues. Like, I was completely unaware that this was a major issue until AJ called me about this movie and he told me what it was about and we started doing research, and it's, I think that's, so this film carries a lot of importance, in my opinion, because although it's set in Texas, it was close to our hearts because we're all Texas natives, and it was important for us to tell this story that's rooted in our culture. But this is an issue that's happening all over the U.S. and I'm sure all over the world. There's so many kids out there who are misguided or have a lack of guidance in their life, and I guess that's just the most shocking thing to me because we all take it for granted when you have love and support, and life it's much better that way. But some people don't have that, and they never know what it's like to have it, or and so it's difficult. And this film, when we were doing research for this film, AJ, we went around to several different foster homes and spoke with foster parents before actually speaking to kids who were currently living in a foster system or had aged out. I wanted to have a really good understanding of what it was like, to live in one of those environments. And so they gave us all of these books, and one of these books was a book that simply, it's just a compilation of lessons on the simplest skills that you could imagine, like washing the dishes or washing your car or how to do laundry. And reading that book and going through one after another, like I learned all these things as a child or just watching my mother, but when you don't have that and you rely on a book to teach you that thing, it's got to be very difficult. And so that was just one thing that, made me realize, like, okay, I know why this movie's important, and I know why we need to spread the awareness of this issue. But I will say that I do have a dream of continuing to, make movies that have great importance and great themes and messages that we can all, walk out of the theater with, and not just, as well as having an incredible cinematic experience. I think you can do both things. And if you have the ability to make some art and put it in front of people and get people to see it and people to think about it and tell their friends and potentially better someone's life, then I think that's the ultimate goal.